We've marked and subclipped our sound bites. So now we're ready to begin laying the foundation of our sequence, and here we're going to do that using insert edits. All right, so I'm in my 4.4 bin here, and I'm going to load this shot here, Good Bread, into the source monitor. And normally at this stage, we'd be finding and marking moments from larger master clips and then editing them down. But because we practiced subclipping earlier in this chapter, we've already done a lot of this work. So for the most part, I'll just be bringing in the entire clip without first setting my in and out points. I'm going to first just play this clip again to remind us of what she's saying.
I love bread. Good bread is really lovely. Good bread is good for you.
All right, so let's go ahead and create our sequence. We've already learned that the easiest way to create a sequence with settings that match my media is to just drag the first clip into the timeline. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just drag and drop. And I have my sequence here in the project panel. I'm just going to bring this up to my sequence bin, and I'm going to call this Ovens of Cappoquin Rough Assembly. All right, so the rough assembly is the stage that we're at in the editing process. We're just roughing everything in and figuring out the order of things, kind of our first draft. Okay, so let's move on. The next shot I'm going to load is History of Bakery. And we can continue to drag and drop, which is okay. But what I want to do is teach you the keyboard shortcuts. It'll make you a faster and more efficient editor. So when we actually use the keyboard, there are a number of things I need to keep track of. One is the location of the playhead in the timeline. And the other thing is the track selectors. So let's go ahead and get our playhead in the right spot. Right now it's at the beginning. I want to make sure to get it right after this first clip. So I'm just going to use my down arrow key, or another way is to just shift drag, and it will magnetize to the edge of this clip. All right, so I have my playhead in the right location, and now I'm going to take a look over here on my source track selectors. It's set up so that I have both video and audio going into the edit, which is what I want. All right, so everything is set up correctly. I can go ahead and just do an insert edit. It is this command on the interface or the comma key on the keyboard. Okay, so I'm just going to press comma, and the shot gets brought down. I'm just going to press backslash to fit my clips within the timeline view. And now I have edited my first two clips. Before I move on, let's talk about track selectors, simply because if something goes wrong, I want you to know how to fix it. I'm going to undo that, Command Z, and this time I'm going to deselect audio, so just video is coming down, okay? So I've got my shot loaded, I have my playhead in the right location, I have video only being edited in, so when I press comma, I just have a video edit. Let me undo that, and if I just have audio selected and press comma, you can see that it's just an audio edit. If I have my track selectors targeted to different tracks in the timeline, so if I bring V1 up to V2 and A1 down to A2, for example, and I press comma, you can see that that's where the edit occurs, all right? I'll undo that, and we'll go back to the way it's supposed to be and press comma. Now, this may seem like a lot to keep track of, but as you're editing your interview foundation like this, you're usually not selecting and deselecting your track selectors, so just make sure everything is selected appropriately, and then from then on, editing should be fast and efficient. All right, so we talk about how Esther loves bread, we get the history of the bakery. Let's now move on to her philosophy of small is beautiful. So I'll load this. Everything is set up correctly, so I'm just going to press comma. And I'm going to press backslash to fit this within the timeline view. And let's play over this to see how things are working.
I love bread. Good bread is really lovely. Good bread is good for you. The history of the bakery is that we are a very, very small family-run bakery with 4 generations in the village of Cappoquin in West Waterford, Ireland. The motto always with the Barron family was small is beautiful, and when you're making something in a small way, it is always better quality than when something gets bigger and bigger and bigger and you lose quality for volume.
So it's working okay, but we actually have this clip right here where she's talking about everything that the bakery survived. So here we get the history of the bakery, and here we get the philosophy. Let's actually include this as the third shot instead. So I'll load this, and we just need to back up so I can press the up arrow key. Again, your shift drag will also get you there. And now when I press comma, you can see that that's edited in at the correct location. Let me undo that, Command Z, and I want to show you how you would do that if you need to drag and drop. Okay, if I just simply drag and drop, you can see that it's going to just overwrite, which is not what I want. I'll undo that. Instead, I just need to hold down a modifier key. So if I hold down Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and then drag, this is now an insert edit. These white triangles tell me that this shot is going to be inserted at this location, and now I've inserted my shot. Briefly, while I'm talking about dragging and dropping, I want to mention that if you did want to bring in just video or just audio and you didn't want to deal with these track selectors, you can actually use these on-screen commands right here. We know that if you want to look at your video, you click here. If you want to look at your audio, you click here. But these buttons also work for bringing down just video or just audio. Okay? Let me undo that. I'll delete those. And I just want to mention one last thing, and that is just that it's very important, to spend the time getting your edits flush up against one another. That's why your up and down arrow keys are really nice so that you know that you're in between two edits, or your shift drag to make sure that that magnetizes. Because a lot of beginning editors will just try to eye it up. They'll kind of just like put the playhead where they think the edit is and then perform the edit. And I'll just press comma here. But if you zoom in here, you can see that I have just a little sliver of video here, and this is called a flash frame, all right? So beginning editors often have a lot of flash frames because they haven't taken the time to make sure that their edits are flush. And I'm just going to play over it, and you'll see just a little blip in the visual, which will be your flash frame.
On the side of the street in Capricorn. The motto always.
All right, so I'll undo that. And so just always make sure that you know where your playhead is as you assemble your sequence with insert edits. All right, so as you can see, we're able to build our sequence relatively quickly using insert edits. Laying the clips is the first step, and once you've edited them, it's time to start moving and tweaking and adding to it, which we'll continue to do in the next few videos.